Hi everybody and welcome to Friday's lesson. It's Enquiry lesson 18 and it should be the 29th of January. Right, so I'm just going to share my screen and go through what resources you need today and through the PowerPoint. So, stop. First thing, I forgot to mention yesterday, there was another sheet in the pack that was the adult guidance. So again, this is if you were in school, this would be helpful for teachers to give extra information or extra subject knowledge. So for you to use this. Equally, children, you are very welcome to look at this for some extra research, extra learning, and also some misconceptions that people quite often have. Okay, so that's that one. You'll also need this sheet open, sorry, this sheet. So there are a load of picture cards of animals, plants, things like that. There are then 8 challenge cards to go with it. So for example, the first one, you'll be create a food chain that contains 1 carnivore and 1 herbivore. So for that one, I would pick a piece of grass, picture of grass. I might then click on, just trying to see what there is. I might do the picture of grass, the picture of the zebra, and then the picture of a lion. That is a complete food chain from producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer. And it's got a herbivore, the zebra, and a carnivore, the lion. Okay, I've got to show the grass though, because that's where it starts. Now, there are 8 challenges here. Have a go at as many as you can. We'll talk about it again a bit later, but have a go at as many as you can. Now, again, it's up to you how you show this, but I was thinking that you cut this out and stick it in your book so it's very clear. And then you put the food chain next to it. However, I've numbered them for this reason, so that if you didn't want to stick the challenge card in, you could just go number 1, and then we know which question it is. Okay, and then at the bottom of the page, there's this food web, which is the challenge or the further learning. Okay, I might just change that actually to further learning before I forget. And so we don't get confused with these challenge cards. But that is an extra bit if you want. Right, we're on the same PowerPoint as yesterday, but we're just doing the second part of it. So let's go to PowerPoint mode. So here is a food chain. Now, using all the words that we were learning yesterday, the prey and predator part isn't too important. It is, like, we need to know it, but it's not the most important. But you need to make sure that if you choose if you're just labeling one of these things, so producer and consumer, for example, or producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, you don't muddle the prey and predator with the consumer. So you wouldn't say the grass is a producer, the slug is prey, the frog is a consumer, the owl is a predator. That's confusing different rows, if that makes sense. So the producer part goes with the first row, consumer, 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 producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. Those all work. However, prey, predator, predator, that's its own row. And then whether they're detritivores, omnivores or carnivores is another row altogether. Okay, so just think about focusing on those labels when you're coming to it. Here is a more complex one. There are more steps to it. So again, we've got a producer. This is a tiny, I think this is plankton, which they can produce their own energy, own food. Oh, blimey, just skipped through accidentally. And then you've got, I think, shrimp. I mean, I don't want to pretend that I know what these fish are called, but this is the food chain. So the primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and this one, again, I'm not sure how you say that, quaternary consumer, basically means the fourth. So you got the first, second, the third, the fourth consumer. And again, you've got prey, predator and prey, because this one eats this one, but is eaten by that one. Predator and prey, and then predator and scavenger, because this one would happily eat dead fish as well. Herbivore, carnivore, carnivore, carnivore. Okay, so here's your activity that you're going to do, your main task. I've already shown you that. Now on this next page, there are some solutions. So if, for example, I might go through a couple just to give you an idea, because it might seem a bit overwhelming. So here, for the first one, create a food chain that contains 1 carnivore and 1 herbivore. You could do grass, rabbit, fox, grass, zebra, lion, plankton, cod, seal, plankton, shrimp, tuna fish. So any of those you could do. Okay, so have a go at that. Give it your best go. I think it might be that some of the cards, there are sometimes you've got the same animal picture twice. I know that this tree, for example, is on there twice, the grass is on there twice, the plankton looks like it's on there twice. So it might be that you cut them all out, you have a go at each challenge card without sticking it in, and then once you think you're happy, you got it all, then you stick it in. That would be my suggestion. Okay, there are some answers. You can always pause this or come back to this if you want to check. And then the further learning, the next step from food chains are food webs, because there's obviously not just one animal that eats one other animal. There's lots of different animals that eat different or the same animals. So some questions here are, how are food webs similar and different to food chains? So you can see this is a food web, this is a food chain. So what's similar and what's different? How would it be better to use a food chain? Or sorry, when? So when would this be better? When would this be better? I mean, this might look quite confusing to some people, but it's got more information. So it depends, I suppose, what you need. And then when would a food web be better? So the further learning is to use this picture, which is included in your resource pack, and write down as many statements as possible about the food web. So from what you've learned over the last 2 days, what could you tell me about the carrot, about the rabbit, about the fox, about the grass, the mice, the owls, the grains, the grasshopper, the birds? So I did one example. I picked the mouse. I said the mouse is a herbivore because it eats grains. It is a primary consumer. It is prey to animals such as owls. Okay, so that was my example. So I wrote a few statements. These are all facts that I've learned over the last few days and from using that food web. So again, you might not have learned specifically about rabbits, but from this picture, you can see that it eats carrots and grasses. So does that mean it's a herbivore, a carnivore, or a omnivore? Looking at the arrows, the carrot and the grass are food for the rabbits, which means it is a primary consumer. And then the arrow is going to the fox, which means it is prey for the fox. And it is hunted, or it's one of its predators is a fox. So those will be facts that I can use from what I've learnt and from that food web. I think that's it. Yeah. So I hope that will make sense, and I hope that you have enjoyed this week's learning all about teeth and food chains. Oh, sorry, I should start to cancel rather than unshare screen. Whoopsies. Yeah, I hope you've been enjoying learning about teeth and food chains. I'm really looking forward to seeing your work. And then we've got another topic, another theme within this topic for next week. Have a lovely weekend, everybody, and see you again next week.